Open up your document. I was looking at your work this morning, and it looks like still you're missing a little bit more in your results and discussion, right? It looks like you have just under 2,000 words. Is that right? And you need closer to 2,500 words, right? So double check that. Make sure that you have like no space, like extra space. See how you have extra space between these paragraphs? You need to bring that together. Like here, it should be like this. All your between paragraph to paragraph, and also between paragraph to heading. Now, notice here, like, make sure that your paragraphs are fully developed. I mean, I can look at this paragraph and see right away that it's not fully developed. Right? One, well, you have like questions. Let's see. Is this questions help? Okay, so if this is going to be an evidence paragraph, that's fine, but make sure that the last paragraph is a linking sentence. So the last paragraph, the last sentence is going to be an original idea and won't be a direct quote, right? It's going to be a linking sentence to transition from this idea to the next idea. Make sure you have ending punctuation. Like, make sure that the citations are within the sentence. In order to do that, we remove this period and add it to the end. Okay? See? So instead of the period here, it needs to be at the end of the sentence. So that way this citation tells us that it goes here. Otherwise, you don't have a citation in the sentence. See what I mean? Even though I know that this applies here, technically it's not within the sentence. So be careful with that. Spacing, just clean this up just a bit. I would single space within each reference and double space between each reference. So your double space is fine here, but single space within each reference. And I think the easiest way to do that is just select your references, single space it, and then manually enter another space between each reference. But just within this. Everything else will be double spaced. Remember that this should be upper and lower case, right? But I really want you to pay close attention to your paragraphs. I think that's what needs the most work. Making sure that even though this is the results and discussion section, that you're developing ideas and that you are developing paragraphs around an idea. Okay, and that you're not just kind of jumping around with data here, that it's coherent and cohesive. Here I would avoid questions as headings. I would just label it as a regular heading. Okay, so a lot of these things that I want to talk to you about, I'll meet with you about so that you can start making these modifications and not have to wait until feedback from your mock presentation. When are you going to give your presentation? What day?
Friday.
This Friday? Okay, so what I would do is we need to continue working, updating this week, and the synodals are going to have, or the tutors, I'm sorry, the tutors are going to have your old paper, so they may make comments that you've already changed, but
They have to check them?
they're going to. They're going to check it in your case. They're going to check it on Friday. But what I will do if I were you, if between now and say Thursday, I have this. I mean, I'll give you credit. I'm going to tell them that you can give your presentation. But I would take this and ask them reprint it on Thursday. Take this again, put this back, take it, and so that you don't have to spend another whatever, and print out the newer version so that they see the newer version, so they're not making comments on things that we've already talked about or that maybe you've already changed. That's what I would do. That's up to you. But I would spend this week, take advantage of every day work a little bit. And I know you have other commitments, but I want you to really spend time trying to clean this up so it's as good as it can be. Okay. And I think that you can take advantage of this week making these changes so that the other tutors will see a revised edition and make hopefully additional comments, right? Because you're still going to have time, probably another week or so, to continue. You basically have 2 more weeks to make changes. But I wouldn't not make any changes this week and just start Friday based on what they say. I would, because there's still a lot of things that you can change based on the comments that are currently in the draft. And we can continue working like this until Fridays you get closer, and you can print out the revised version and work that. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, because it's coming together, right? It's just the paragraphs are what concerns me the most, is so that your ideas flow, that it's coherent, basically. It's clear what you want to say.
But right now it's not coherent.
Well, it needs to be better. I think it needs to be better, to be honest. Okay, I don't think we're quite there the way it is right now. Like, we look at here where you have some data here, which is fine, that's good, okay? But the paragraph, first you need an indentation, but this paragraph here, for example, on page 6, it goes from here, okay, so you're providing a lot of evidence, and then you have some more. This is the same paragraph, supposedly. Okay, when I look at this, and when the reader looks at this, they're saying, okay, this is the same paragraph. Okay? So you have more data. So that paragraph goes from page 6 to page 8. And within that one paragraph, if you're going to remember the 2 options, we had option A, option 1, option 2. Oh, this is the lit review. Oh, okay, sorry. This is the literature review?
Sí, porque es de lo de exchange.
Okay. All right, well, so, all right. Probably you can, sometimes less is more. I mean, that's fine to create a dialogue, but maybe try to find a way to say it with less words.
Okay.
Yeah, and make sure that in the literature review, you follow up with some sort of analysis where you're analyzing, synthesizing, you're making the connection to the topic sentence. And notice here, this first sentence, after the verbal exchange on page 6, within the classroom interaction there exists a question-answer sequence between the teacher and the students that, according to Sinclair, okay, so you're quoting from the first sentence. And remember that the very first sentence, the topic sentence, the main idea, should come from you. And I see the topic sentence here. I see it. You have it. It's just when you quote, then that's evidence when we're talking about the literature review. So I want you to be very conscious of the types of sentences within each paragraph. We have basically 4 types. We have the main idea. We have evidence, which usually is a citation for the lit review. Analyze sentences, which also could mean comment, synthesize, compare and contrast, commenting on how the evidence links to the main idea. Those are all different examples of those types of sentences. And the last sentence always is the link. And so every single sentence that you write, ask yourself, which of those 4 types am I writing? And am I writing those types of sentences in a logical manner? And what I mean by logical, I mean, well, if it's the topic sentence, probably it's going to be the first sentence. If it's a linking sentence, probably it's going to be at the end. If it's an analyze sentence, am I analyzing what I already mentioned? Am I writing an analyze sentence after an evidence sentence? If I'm writing an evidence sentence, am I including direct quotes or citations? I'm sorry, am I including citations? So that's what I want you to really think about, both for your literature review and for the the discussion, the results in discussion section. Those types of paragraphs look a little bit different, as we've talked about before, between the literature review and the results in discussion section, but they're still very much related. You still have to follow the meal plan. You still have evidence sentences. You still have analyze sentences. You still have link and idea. But as you know, they're slightly different in the results. And so you have a little bit more versatility as far as what's evidence and what's analyzed.
Por ejemplo, esto no lo puedo poner aquí, ¿verdad? No puedo empezar con una...
I wouldn't. I mean, you can say it takes 2 seconds. I can just go here and say no, no, yes, yes, no, yeah. I mean, just from looking at the topic sentence and say, okay, they're missing a topic sentence just by looking at the citation. And you can do the same thing. You just say, okay, which paragraph should I start first and focus on? Making sure that I follow the meal plan.
Okay.
See? And yeah. So I'd like to keep this until you are, or if you want this plastic, I'll just staple it or something, but just so I to have physically the copy, so I can say that I have it. But I really would like for you to spend this week to clean it up a little bit so we can get closer for Friday, and then continue. If we need to make more changes, we continue to make more changes. Still have time here. We have 2 weeks. But I want you to take advantage of these 2 weeks and get closer. I want you to get closer than you are now.
I think I will present it extraordinary.
Why? You're close. You're close. We have 2 weeks. We have time. We have time to do it. I'm telling you now because you have time. I mean, if it was a lost cause, I'd tell you, but it's not.
But the presentation is on Friday.
Okay.
And it's very...
I mean, you've got the data here. It's just a matter of putting in some structure, add some structure. But you're there. You can do this. You're close. Just spend some time. Try to rearrange your schedule this week and spend the time. But you can do this. You're close. Okay. And if we need to have another conversation, come by and let's talk again. No problem. And anytime you want me to look at something in fear, just send me an email. But just keep, don't quit. We're close. We're very close. We can do this.
Además, no sé qué incluir lo de la...
Have you had a chance to look at the video and basically, you're going to include the problem. Okay, let me write this down here. So the very first, and this is the order that I would present. So I would start with the problem, and then go into your literature. So we have the problem, the literature review, then the method. So here you're going to have participants, instruments, and procedure. And in your when you present, I would have like in your slides headings. And this is participants, instruments, and procedure. So it's very clear on the types, sections of the method. Make sure that you include, say that it's a qualitative research. And you did like a discourse analysis, right? So I would mention that. And then the results. Okay. Basically, this is what the order that I would follow here. Okay, and then your conclusion. And yeah, so that's basic. This is the basic order that I would follow here. Okay. take a look at that video. There's some things in the video that I also include some links to other videos that you should look at. That some things not to do with PowerPoint. Make sure the colors good, that the contrast is fine. That you can read that you can read the text, but you don't have too much text. You don't have a lot of bullet points. Okay. But we still have time to do this, all right? We have time to clean this up. Right? So I'll be checking my emails every day. You send me your questions. If we need to have another discussion, you want to discuss this, that's fine. Okay. Do you have any questions?
La parte de los resultados también está todo mal.
It's not everything's bad, okay? I'm just saying that it can be better, and I want it to be better here. Okay? And some of these are really easy changes, like the spacing and format. Okay, that's one thing. Changing this to a declarative is fine. But here, for example, sometimes it's just a matter of adding a sentence. Okay, it's to transition from this paragraph to this paragraph. But make sure that you're triangulating the information. Remember, in the resulting discussion section, if this is an evidence paragraph, that is, if all the sentences are evidence except for the main idea and the linking sentence, make sure that you're including at least two different data sources. That is, you have some data from questionnaire and some data from an interview. And if you follow that, then you're going to be in good shape. Okay, so you can double check all of this in terms of the data sources that you use, making sure you have topic sentences and linking sentences. But in general, it's fine here. You've got a lot of good information. It's just, making sure that this is what I mean by coherent, that you have the evidence sentences, you have the linking sentence. This is all talking about being coherent, so that when the reader reads this, remember that the reader hasn't spent hours and hours with this data as you have. So when you read this, try to read it from someone's perspective that they've never read this before. And they're reading this for the very first time. That's what I try to do, even though we've been working the whole semester on this, and I know some about your data. When I read this, I'm asking myself, okay, if someone would read this, is this going to be clear? That's how I try to look at it. And that's what I want you to try to do. Just read this and say, okay, does this make sense? I mean, if someone is reading this for the first time, am I making myself understood? That's really what our discussions are now. It's making yourself understood. You've got it here. Now we need to hear so someone else can understand. That's just what we have plenty of time this week and next week. Spend a little bit of time each day making progress, ask questions, talk to me, making sure that we're all on the same page here. Right? And you explain to me. If I see something that you don't agree with, you tell me. Explain it to me so that I can make sense of it. Okay? Because that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to think what the singularis are going to be looking for. But I think in general, the resulting discussion section is better, I think, than in general than the lit review. Okay, just at first glance. But I want you to look at it again. You want to make sure, for example, here, like we talked about in the Google Drive, adding a topic sentence. Page 16. Here, for example, you have a direct quote and there's no citation. Okay, page 16. And anytime you have a direct quote with no citation, be very careful. You need something. You need something if it's a direct quote. Either personal communication, if it's your own research, or a citation. You know that, so be very careful, especially a direct quote, even as a paraphrase. But that, you have to be very careful, because that's plagiarism. That's, even though it's an accident, it wasn't intentional, that's what it is. So just be careful. And these direct quotes are very easy. You just find them. Say, okay, do I have a citation? But read them, and when it's not your original idea, just put a citation, you'll be fine. Okay? So here on page 16, let me just note that here. So